Hello, MUS 2020 students. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about panning and why it's important. I've already posted a link to the video on how to pan sounds, but the big question is, why would you do this? What's so important about moving a sound to the left or to the right? Why not just put everything right down the center? Well, part of it is due to how the human body is laid out. You've got two ears, one on either side of your head, and this lets you localize a sound in relation to your head's location. The slight curve to the ears keeps them from lying completely flat, but it also acts to bias them to pick up sounds that occur in front of you slightly better than sounds that occur behind you. You don't have a full 180-degree range of hearing. It's closer to 170 degrees, but it still is wide enough left to right field that influences our perception of the world. That is why panning is important from a psychoacoustic perspective. But there is another simpler and much, much more important reason for why we spend a ton of time on panning in post-production classes. If you leave everything in the same position, down the center, sounds accumulate. They start to become muddy. They mask quieter parts. They create distortion when you have overlapping frequencies in the same band occurring on top of each other, and they just stack up. They otherwise make the resulting track less effective than it could be, and the more you put in the center, the worse it sounds. So how do we fix this? This is where panning comes in. So using the panning knob in Ableton or in Reaper or Pro Tools or Logic or any DAW, you can easily position where the sound on that channel is positioned. If you turn it to the left, it goes left. Turn it to the right, it goes to the right. And if you turn it in the center, it goes in the center. Think of it like this. You're positioning all of those channels as if they are performers on stage in a concert. Multiple people can't physically exist in the same place, right? You can't have the guitarist here, then put the drummer on top of the guitarist, then put the bassist on top of the drummer, and then finally put the singer on top of everything, right? I mean, maybe you can, but you need some crazy set design in order to do that, and it's not going to sound great. And without that crazy set design, they're going to be physically on top of each other. They can't occupy the same space. That's what I'm saying. But if you spread them out, it becomes a lot easier for them to exist on the same stage. If you put the drums in the center, cool. Put the guitar off to one side, put the bass on another side, put the keys somewhere else, put the singer out in front. Everything has its own place. Everything can be heard. The general rule of thumb is to keep the drums in the center, put the bass off center, but not too far off, and then spread the other instruments out around them to create a sense of balance on both sides, using the full amount of the pan from 100% left to 100% right. However, they're actually notated will be slightly different in your DAW. Some will go -64 to +64. Some will go -127 to 127. Some will go -100% left to +100% right. It's always different, but the same thing. Turn the knob all the way left, it's all the way left. Knob all the way right, it's all the way right. Just kind of gauge the proportions. This is fairly common to do, to position everything in a way that you would envision them being on stage. But keep in mind, you can always double a channel. You can duplicate it, and that will duplicate all of the audio on it. So if, for example, you feel, I need more guitar, I need a second copy of this guitar, you can pan the guitar over to one side, copy it, take a look at what your panning knob is set to, and then invert that to put it on the other side. This creates a really, really thick sound, and it's very common to use on things like guitar and synths in particular to add depth to the stereo field. But most importantly, by spacing every part out so that they're not literally all on top of each other, you'll notice that you can hear each part better than if they were. And when we get to automation, you can create some really, really cool changes by moving different parts around, say, between the verse and the chorus, or to have constantly swirling parts going around at all times. But we'll get to that later in the semester when we talk about automation. For now, just focus on panning everything out so that each part has its own individual place from left to right.